Okay, you guys have all used Excel extensively. Well, guess what? Just like Excel, you can summarize your data. We've been doing this group by and all this stuff and getting multi indexes and crazy stuff. You can summarize your data with pivot tables. Right? So something you already know how to do in Excel, you can take your data and put it together like a pivot table. Okay? So let's using the work we did with aggregations. We are going to put this summary table into a non-indexed data frame and then use pivot table. This is the command pivot underscore table. That's the function to display the data in a different frame of reference. All right, so we're trying to build on what we just learned. Okay, so again, we got to do all our stuff. Import pandas as PD. Then we want to create the data frame, which is PD read underscore CSV. I know it seems silly. I can just copy and paste it, but by getting into the habit of writing this, I've now stopped looking at my notes on how to read in a data file. It takes a while, but eventually you can figure it out. Now I'm going to change that sales date because I always like to do that. Sales date, and I want to change that to DF. PD to date time, and we are going to do it for DF sales date. I'm not as good with that one. I still got to look at my notes whenever I type that one out, but that's fine. All right, we're going to do our grouped by. We're going to create our grouped variable is group by function, and what we want to group by is store and brand. Right, this is all the same stuff we just did, right? And then we're going to create our DF summary, which is grouped, and we're going to go sales quantity and sales dollars. Oops. All right, and we're going to aggregate using these functions. So sum, mean, and standard deviation. Right. This is all stuff we've seen before. Okay, I've got to look. Group. This is undefined. Oh, right. Because be df dot grouped by df group by. Okay, we got that. I just gotta make sure we do that right. Okay, so let's run all this. I'm gonna try again running this as a cell. I think I just gotta give myself some time before it pops up here, right? So we'll do that. While that's reading in, apologize for the alarm. I've got a meeting coming up. Well, that's reading in. So what we're going to just type out a few more things here, what we're about to do. Okay, so when we do this code of up top here, so when I grouped the data by store and brand, I created two indexes, which I found convenient to query the data. To eliminate indices and the additional column headings, say mean, right? Or I reset the index for store and brand, and I dropped the level 1 column heading to get the data I needed. All right, that's what we did in that. This is what we did in the last script. This is probably probably not. Remember the way I did it in the last script. This may not be the most efficient method. Right? I knew what I wanted to do, Googled some keywords, and went to Stack Overflow.com to find the code snippets I needed. Okay? All right, so we've got this all grouped. So let's do all of that fun stuff we did before. All right, so df summary 1, we want to get df summary, and we're going to use that ILOC function. All right, and we want to get all of the rows, and I want to get, in this case, I want to get both means. I want to get sales quantity, column 1, mean, and sales dollars mean, right? So it's a little bit different. I'm adding another variable in there. Okay. We then went to df summary 1, and that was equal to df summary 1. And we're going to reset the index. This is a little bit different. Let's reset the index level equals store and brand. All right? And we'll take a look at how this, I think what I'll do is I'll name that 2 just so we can see the comparison, okay? So let's run that, df summary 1. All right, so I have df summary 1. I've got my, store, brand, sales quantity mean, sales dollar mean. Okay, so before I just had sales quantity mean. I've added another column. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset the index. So it's going to have level store and brand. Let's see what that looks like. So now I've got df summary 2. I've got store and brand as their own variables. And now I've got sales quantity mean and sales dollars mean. So now I've got a table with store, brand, sales, and now the index is 0 through 308,599 or 308,598. That's the last index when you get to it. So that's all that reset does. It just says, takes all this stuff and it makes its own column. So now everything is store, brand, sales quantity, but I still want to get rid of this row here. And to get rid of that row, I'm going to go df summary 3, right? Just to kind of show you the progression. Or we'll call df summary 3 columns is equal to df, I'm not going to be able to do a progression. We're going to have to show df summary 2 columns is equal to df summary 2 dot columns dot drop level, and I want to drop level 1. I want to drop the sum. I mean the mean. I don't need, what I don't need is, I don't need this, right? So this is 0, 1. I'm going to drop level 1. All right, so we're going to drop level equals 1. I wonder if I can, yeah, now I gotta do it this way. So what you're going to see now is when right now we've got df summary 2 looks like this. Once I run this, I should just see this is going to be gone, and I'm going to see store, brand, sales quantity, sales dollars. And I know I have to keep in mind that these are all means. All right, so let's run that. All right, and now I can look at df summary 2, and I should see the index, store, brand, sales quantity, sales dollars, knowing all of this is just a mean table. All right, so that's all we did. Very simple stuff. Now that I have, and I'm going to give me some room here. Okay, now I have a data frame with store, brand, sales quantity, mean, and sales dollars mean. Okay. Now I want to use a pivot function in Python to put the data into a different frame of reference. If I wanted to look at the data with store in each column and brand as the row or index, and show the mean values for just sales dollars, I can use a pivot function to rearrange the data so that it's useful to me. All right, this is all about what I want to look at. All right, so let's give that a try. Okay, so here is, we're going to call this pivot, and I'm going to put a cell reference because this is going to take a couple of lines. Oh, not 55%, there we go. And pivot is going to be df summary 1 dot pivot table. That's the function. Parentheses. The index I'm going to set as brand. The columns I want to be store. Excuse me. The values I want in here are sales dollars. And if it doesn't have a value, I want to fill that value with nothing. Okay? All right. So let's take a look at what this this is. And if you think about this, right? If you were doing this in Excel and you put this in a pivot table, you'd put brand in the rows, you'd put store in the columns, and you'd put sales dollars, if I can spell sales dollars correctly here. You put sales dollars as the value, okay? So let's run this, run the cell, and let's take a look at this pivot table, Okay, so very quickly, we have a pivot table, right? So we have 14,457 rows, 78 columns. Let's take a look at it, right? So now I have a pivot, right? All of these are all the means. We know this is sales, right? We have the different brands. You can see the different stores here. Here are all the different brands, and now you can do some definite comparisons between these. Okay, so that's just a way of coming up with and redoing your data so that it fits your needs, depending on what it is you're looking for.